$5 billion annually in avoided infrastructure costs and unlock cross-border energy trade worth billions more. This future we envision will not happen by accident. It requires political courage. It requires technical collaboration. It requires financing that prioritizes interconnection over isolation. That is why this year's AETC is important. Join us in Accra, Ghana for the Africa Energy Technology Conference 20. May 19th to 21st, Labadi Beach Hotel, Accra, Ghana. The future of energy is Africa. Register now.
Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for the Africa Energy Technology Center. They are hosts and they have brought us this program. Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, we have been joined in the auditorium by royalty and by the leaders and movers of this country. I wish to acknowledge the presence of His Royal Majesty Osajifo Ampem Anya Amampong Tabreku II, who would be the key insight speaker on Finance Forum, but he's also here as the Royal Osajifo Ampem Tabrako II, representing himself and his constituency. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for Your Royal Majesty. Thank you very much. We also have amongst us, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Zakaria Doso. He is the Managing Director, Africa Energy Investment Corporation, and he's here among us. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for him as well. Ladies and gentlemen, we also have Mr. Walid Ali Benupeti, I'm sorry, and he is the Director General of the Information and Digital Transformation Authority, and he's also joined us here. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for him. I mentioned earlier that the jewel in our crown today is in the person of the President of the Republic of Ghana, His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama. Now, His Excellency is perhaps the most popular president on the African continent today because he led the cause of Africa in championing, among other issues, the recognition by the United Nations General Assembly of the transatlantic slavery as being the gravest crime against humanity. He deserves an applause for that. But even more than that, he's very well steeped in the development of energy and technology, and he's pioneered one of the bravest and most ambitious projects on the continent, which is to train over 1 million Ghanaian youth in AI and technology-related skills. That is happening in Ghana, and it shows that the continent is moving forward. Ladies and gentlemen, I would urge all of us to stand up and receive the President and his entourage as they move into the auditorium. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, that's a faux pas. I've been asked to hold on a little bit while we wait for him to get some. I apologize to you, but please get seated. We are still awaiting the President to come, but we will still go by the protocols that have been established. That when the President comes in, all of us shall rise and give him the necessary courtesies. Also, ladies and gentlemen, we will be joined here by Her Excellency Shirley Ayoko Butche, who is the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. She would also be in our audiences. So, ladies and gentlemen, you look out for that. As I said, our program is packed with stars. I see also seated in the front row Mr. Farid Ghazali. He's the Secretary General of the Africa Petroleum Producers Organization, APO. Ladies and gentlemen, please acknowledge Mr. Farid Ghazali. We also have with us Honorable John Abdullahi Jinapor, who is the Minister of Energy and Green Transition of the Republic of Ghana. Honorable Minister, please, if you may stand for acknowledgements. Thank you very much. And to bring you up to speed on what is going on, the Chief of Staff of the Republic of Ghana, Mr. Julius Deborah, is representing the President of Ghana at today's program. Ladies and gentlemen, please accord him the courtesies. Thank you very much. So the Chief of Staff is representing the President here. Please, ladies and gentlemen, shall we stand up one more time? I indulge you to stand as we take the national anthem. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Through the length and breadth of Africa, there's one strand that ties all of us and makes us Africans. In every culture across the continent, there is reverence for a force in the universe that is greater than all humanity, and that is God. So we begin our program today with a word of prayer. And if you just bow down your heads briefly, I would like to offer that prayer on behalf of all gathered here. Heavenly Father, we thank you for bringing us together today. Guide our thoughts, our words, and our decisions. Grant us wisdom, unity, and purpose. May all who are here today, the deliberations we have, be meaningful and prosperous. In your name we pray. Amen. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. The future of energy and technology lies in our youth. And for us to properly anchor the thinking around this forum today, we have a young man who is the ambassador for the Africa Energy Technology Center to give us a presentation. He is very young, but his insights on technology and where we stand globally will impress you. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me to welcome Mr. Tidon Jojo Dadzi.
This means about 800 million people are quite young. Accra boasts the youngest population globally, yet most of our potential remains untapped due to a lack of proper education. Let's examine our education system. Youth are resourceful, adaptable, creative, and energetic. However, a significant amount of them are not being taught about technology effectively. In our rapidly changing world, this is a problem as they lack the necessary expertise in these fields. As Nelson Mandela said, education is the most powerful weapon which we can use to change the world. And in this case, it truly is. Such a challenge will be overcome by governments, schools, and communities investing in STEM education and introducing robotics and artificial intelligence into our schools education systems. This will equip students with new skills and foster innovation and invention. Conversely, uneducated youth often face unemployment. They struggle to find good jobs and may end up working in informal or illegal occupations like galamsey. Another issue is the lack of funding and support for innovation. African countries must therefore create programs for youth entrepreneurship, internship, scholarship, and mentorship to motivate, empower, and build young people up into getting well-paying jobs and, and solving long-standing problems with fresh solutions. Furthermore, many skilled Africans leave the country in search for better educational and career opportunities, amongst others. This results in the continuous decline of our continent's industrial labor force. The heightened interest in seeking greener pastures results in the development of other countries and continents and our detriment. The situation can change if we invest in research and technology, create better career opportunities, and support local startups. This will lead to more innovative solutions and ultimately improve Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, honorable guests, the future of Africa hinges on our choices. Investing in reliable infrastructure, technology education, leadership programs, and youth mentorship is sure to build up our youth, who will in turn build us up. Thank you very much.
The boy started there, they forget.
Thank you very much, Jojo Datsun. Ladies and gentlemen, I think he deserves another round of applause. Indeed, the future of energy and technology is in the hands of the youth. At this point, ladies and gentlemen, you know what we say in Africa. When a visitor comes home and the door is opened, the child who opens the door says, "Welcome." But the real welcome message comes from the host. So, ladies and gentlemen, pretty shortly, we will be taking our welcome address. Before then, I'd like to acknowledge a very eminent traditional leader who's amongst us. I think I massacred his name at the first try. He is Osajefo Ampem Anyem, Anye Amwampong Tabrako III, who is the traditional leader, the paramount chief of Winchi traditional area. Ladies and gentlemen, please put your hands together for him once more time. I've just saved myself the cost of buying a cow. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my distinct honor and privilege to invite the visionary leader whose commitment to national and regional connectivity has made this historic gathering possible. Please join me to warmly welcome the founder and president of the Africa Energy Technology Center, Miss Emilia Akuma. Ladies and gentlemen, she's here with us. Put your hands together for her. It is her vision, her enterprise, and her foresight that has made it possible for all of us to be here today. Another round of applause, ladies and gentlemen, for her. Mrs. Emilia.
Thank you very much. Please, I'm Miss, very single. Your Excellency, Julius Deborah, Chief of Staff of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Ministers of State, members of the Diplomatic Corps, captains of industry, investors, development partners, esteemed delegates from across Africa and beyond, friends from the media, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, and a heartfelt akwaba to you all. Apparently I've been corrected, so let me take it again. Good morning, and a heartfelt obake to you all. Let me begin with a simple question. Was that not extraordinary? What we just witnessed from Titan, our youth ambassador for the Africa Energy Technology Center, was more than a speech. It was a clear, unfiltered glimpse into Africa's energy future. Since the beginning of 2024, Titan has demonstrated uncommon passion and discipline in driving conversations around energy and technology solutions. More importantly, he reminded us of something we adults too often forget. The future is not something we wait for. It is something we build deliberately, courageously, and intentionally. For me, he is living proof that our vision at the ATC is indeed working. He represents exactly why the Africa Energy Technology Center exists and why we created the Youth Energy Entrepreneurship and Incubation Program, which we will officially launch tonight at our gala dinner night. Africa cannot speak about transformation while excluding the very generation that will inherit the consequences of our decisions. We are moving our youth from passive observers to active owners and innovators of our energy. Your Excellencies, your presence here today sends an undeniable message to the world. Africa is indeed ready, ready to lead its own energy conversation. We are ready to build systems that reflect our realities, our values, our ambitions, and our identity. We gather this week under the theme that is not merely ceremonial, but urgent, from borders to bridges, driving intra-Africa trade and development through technology. 3 years ago, when we founded the Africa Energy Technology Center, we did so with a conviction that Africa's energy transformation would never happen in isolation, and that energy without technology is underutilized potential, while technology without energy is stalled ambition. Together, they form the bedrock of a modern African economy. Today, that conviction has become a continental imperative because we must confront an uncomfortable truth. Africa is an energy-rich continent suffering from energy poverty. This is why the AETC is deeply committed to championing advanced technology solutions in the oil and gas sector. Through the integration of artificial intelligence, IoT-enabled predictive maintenance, and carbon capture technologies, we can significantly reduce emissions, eliminate gas flaring, optimize computational efficiencies in our hydrocarbon industries. We do not have to choose between traditional energy security and environmental stewardship. Through technology, we can achieve both, I believe. Distinguished guests, you did not travel from across Africa and the world to hear another ceremonial speech. You came to work. You came to negotiate. You came to invest. You came to build partnerships that will outlive this room. Therefore, I, Amelia Sidapam Akuma, challenge every single leader here, investor, and policymaker to commit to immediate action before you leave Ghana. First of all, see Africa as one. Stop looking at 55 disconnected markets and start looking at one integrated energy and technology ecosystem. Imagine a solar panel manufactured in Morocco, financed by a Pan-African institution, installed by Ghanaian engineers, monitored via Kenyan software, and empowering a factory in Nigeria. That is a viable African business model waiting for your execution. 2, formulate and harmonize. Work across borders to align regulations so that private capital can flow seamlessly into regional energy grids. 3, invest in our youth and women. Step onto our exhibition floors, meet brilliant finalists of our Continental Pitch Initiative, and back them. The next Billion Africa energy company is already in the building. Let us carry this unyielding message back to our capitals. Energy integration is trade integration. Trade integration is economic integration, and economic integration remains the only sure path towards the Africa we all desire. The borders we see today were created by people, which means that they can be dismantled by the same people. Let us stop building walls of bureaucracy and start building bridges of power. Let us look back in history on Africa Energy Technology Conference 2026 as not a moment of words, but as the spark that permanently lit up the African continent. Distinguished ministers, Your Excellencies, the tool is in our hands. The talent is in this room. The future is right now. Let us get to work. And like we say at the AETC, the future of energy remains African. Thank you very much, and you're welcome to Accra.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Miss Emilia Akoma, who is the founder and president of the Africa Energy Technology Center. They are the hosts of this very important program, and as I said earlier, we are here because of their vision and foresight. Ladies and gentlemen, at this point, we will take a video recorded message from another very important global diplomat and stateswoman. She wanted to be here, but the circumstances did not permit it. So ladies and gentlemen, with a round of applause, please let's welcome the video of Her Excellency Shirley Ayoko Botwe, who is the Secretary General. Yes, she's the Secretary General of the Commonwealth. Ladies and gentlemen, please to the screen.
For us, this means partnership built on fairness, rewarding all stakeholders over the long term, instead of short-term profit-taking by the few. It means investment that matches ambition and full potential. And it means technology that serves people, improving lives in homes, schools, factories, farms, and communities. At this critical moment, Africa's leadership is urgently needed. The global order is under strain. Trust is being tested. Climate impacts are accelerating, and the temptation to turn inward is strong. But the answer to fragmentation is not isolation. It is purposeful cooperation. That is the Commonwealth's conviction. It is my priority, and it is the spirit of this conference. So as you meet in Accra, I encourage you to be bold. Build the bridges that connect markets. Build the partnerships that mobilize investment. Build the systems that turn resources into resilience. Africa's energy story is not a story of scarcity. It is a story of possibility. And if we get this right, it will not only transform Africa, it will help shape a fairer, more secure, and more sustainable future for the whole world. Thank you.
That was Her Excellency Shirley Ayokobutri, Secretary General of the Commonwealth, and her words are succinct. The future of energy in Africa must change. Ladies and gentlemen, we'll take our second keynote address from a man who has been driving institutional change across the continent. And very few of us know the petroleum sector better than this man. From one Secretary General to another. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Mr. Farid Ghazali, the Secretary General of the Africa Petroleum Producers Organization, APO. Thank you very much.
Good morning, everyone. Your Excellencies, Honor Representative, the President of the Republic of Ghana, Honorable Ministers, distinguished representative of the Government of Ghana, distinguished organizers of the Africa Energy Technologies Conference, Excellencies, Ambassadors, esteemed experts, media family, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me first and foremost to express my sincere appreciation Africa Energy Technology Center, the Ministry of Energy and Green Transition of the Republic of Ghana, for the kind invitation extended to me to address this important gathering. I also wish to convey my deep gratitude to the government and people of Ghana for the warm welcome, the excellent arrangement made for this conference in the vibrant city of Accra, a city that has always stood for African confidence and leadership. The theme chosen for this year's conference, from bridges, is both timely and profoundly strategic. It speaks directly to one of the central challenges of our continent: how to transform our national energy assets into a shared African platform for growth, trade, technology, and for too long, and you are going to agree with me, Africa's energy landscape has been shaped by borders. Borders between markets, borders between infrastructures, borders between regulatory systems, borders between financing capacities, and sometimes even borders between our own ambitions. The task today for us is to build bridges. Bridges between countries, of course. Bridges between resources and markets. Bridges between technology and industrialization. Bridges between energy access and economic sovereignty. Bridges between African capital African expertise, and African priorities. Precisely direction in which APO is moving. First, the Energy Bank. Established in partnership with Afreximbank, APO is contributing to one of the most decisive bridges of our time, the bridge of African financing. Our continent cannot continue to depend exclusively on external financial systems that don't always reflect our development realities. We need instruments capable of supporting oil, gas, infrastructure, local content, industrialization, and the just, fair transition in African terms. Let me give you a secret. We have reached the minimum capital to launch the bank, and it's going to start by the end of July. Second, through the strengthening of cooperation among national oil companies, APO is promoting a bridge between our operators. African NOCs must not only coexist together, share expertise, develop joint ventures, create regional value chain capable of serving African markets first. Third, through our work on local content, we are building a bridge between energy resources and African companies. The energy sector must create more African jobs, more African services, more African technology providers, and more African industrial capacity. Fourth, through the APO Interactive Energy Map, we are building a bridge of data and intelligence. In the modern energy world, no serious strategy can be built without reliable data, shared knowledge, and digital tools. Africa must know itself better to plan better, invest better, and negotiate better. Fifth, through our platforms dedicated to training, research, and development, APO is building a bridge of skills and innovation. The future of Africa energy will not be secured, only by reserves. It will be secured by engineers, researchers, technicians, digital specialists, policy experts, and young innovators capable of designing African solutions for Africa challenges. Sixth, and the last one, through our efforts to promote dialogue among regulators, institutions, and member countries, APO is working to build a bridge of harmonization. Intra-African trade cannot advance if infrastructure standards, regulations, and investment frameworks remain fragmented. Ladies and gentlemen, if we want to move from border to bridges, we must move from declaration to implementation. Africa does not lack vision. What Africa needs today is execution, coordination, and bankable projects. Natural gas in this regard remains an immediate and strategic lever. It can support power generation, industrial development, petrochemicals, fertilizer production, clean cooking, regional trade, and energy security. For Africa, gas is not a contradiction to the transition. It is one of the conditions for a realistic, fair, and inclusive transition. But technology must be placed at the heart of this transformation. Digitalization, artificial intelligence, smart infrastructure, data platforms, operational efficiency, methane management, emissions reduction and advanced energy services are no longer optional. They are now central to competitiveness. This is why the theme of this conference is so important. It reminds us that energy technology services are not a secondary segment of the industry. They are the tools through which Africa, they are the tools through which Africa can integrate its market, improve performance, reduce costs, retain value locally, and accelerate industrial transformation. For APO, the path forward is clear. We must think African. We must plan African. We must finance African. We must build African, and we must deliver African. We must ensure that each pipeline becomes a corridor of integration. Each refinery becomes a platform for value creation. Each training center becomes a factory of skills. Each digital platform becomes a tool for decision making. Each research initiative becomes an actionable solution. Each partnership becomes a bridge towards shared prosperity. Ladies and gentlemen, the shift from